chapters 37 to 45 of The Ice Monster by David Walliams. Enjoy! Chapter 37. Bang, bang, bang!
"Get down from there!"
came a shout. Elsie knew that voice. It was the head of the police, Commissioner Barker.
"We've had reports of a large lady in a hot air balloon crashing through the window of the museum."
"It wasn't me," called Dotty. "It must have been another large lady flying a hot air balloon."
"Pull the other one. It's got bells on it,"
came the shout from below. Elsie was shaking. "Dotty, if they catch us, they'll lock us up and goodness knows what they'll do to Woolly." "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear." "Please stop saying oh dear over and over again. We need to find a way out of here or we're all done for." "Oh dear." The poor lady couldn't help it. "Oh dear, I didn't mean to say oh dear, oh dear."
"You have 10 seconds to give yourselves up, or we will be forced to open fire," barked Barker.
Then there was the sound of rifles being cocked. Click, click, click. "Have you ever ridden a horse?" asked Elsie. "No." "A donkey?" "No."
10.
"Ever sat on a carousel at the fair?" "Oh, no." "Me neither. But how hard can it be?"
9.
"Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" asked Dotty.
8.
"What am I thinking?" replied the girl.
7.
"That you're going to ride on my back?"
6.
"I'm not thinking that," said Elsie.
5.
"Oh dear."
4.
"I'm thinking we're going to have to ride this mammoth out of here."
3.
"Oh dear."
2.
"Yes, I know. Oh dear, but right now we don't have much choice."
1.
"Yes," agreed Dotty. The pair grabbed hold of a tusk each and with all their might forced the mammoth backwards, away from the edge of the roof.
"Fire at will,"
came the bellow from down below. Gunshots crackled in the dawn sky. Bang, 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 bang. Chapter 38. A Slap on the Bottom. Bang, 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 bang. Ooh! The mammoth started wailing. Being a prehistoric creature, she had never heard gunfire before. She began flailing around in fear. "Ah!" cried Dotty. "Hold on!" yelled Elsie. The pair gripped onto the tusks as tightly as they could. "Don't let go!" shouted the girl. If they did, they would be hurled from the roof and become human jam on the ground below. Bang, 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 bang. The mammoth retreated through the hole in the wall she had created. Now she was inside the museum, dragging her 2 new friends with her. Safely inside, Elsie let go of the tusk and fell to the floor. Doof! Meanwhile, Dotty was being thrown around like a rag doll. "Help!" she shrieked. "Let go!" "What?" "I said let go!" Finally, Dotty did so and fell face down. Boof! "Oh, this floor needs a good polish," she remarked. "There isn't time for that," said the girl. "We need to escape." Bang, 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 bang.
"Reload,"
ordered Barker. The gunfire had ended for a moment and the mammoth stopped flailing around. The girl patted the animal and stroked the fur on her trunk, which helped calm her down. "Woolly, I will never let anything bad happen to you. I promise," she whispered. "But you're going to have to trust me, all right? I know you're not going to like it at first, but this is the only way out of here. Now, Dotty, give me a leg up." "Are you sure this is a good idea?" "No, but it's our only idea." Elsie put her hand on the lady's shoulder. Dotty cupped her own hands and the girl used them as a step to climb onto the animal's back. "Good mammoth," said Elsie. The girl gripped the animal's flanks with her legs and used 2 handfuls of fur as reins. To her surprise, the mammoth didn't back buck, or even let out a sound. In fact, she immediately seemed comfortable with this new arrangement. Elsie reached out her hand to help Dotty up. "Come on!" ordered the girl. The lady was getting on a bit and struggled to heave herself up. Once she had, Dotty couldn't swing her leg over the animal like Elsie. Instead, she lay face down on Woolly's back, her head buried in the animal's fur. It all looked rather undignified. "Are you comfortable?" asked Elsie. "Of course not," replied Dotty, "but I think we'd best get a move on." "If you're sure." The girl had seen the great and the good ride their horses through the parks of London, which had given her some idea of how it might be done. So she dug her heels into the animal's sides, tugged on the fur, and ordered, "Giddy up!" Unfortunately, the mammoth didn't move an inch. "Oh dear," muttered Dotty unhelpfully. "Dotty?" asked the girl. "Yes, child?" "Would you mind giving our prehistoric friend a little pat on the bottom?" "If you're sure." "As gently as you can, just to see if we can make her move." "Understood." Then the lady did as she was asked. She raised her hand a touch and brought it down on the animal's rear end. Slap! Hoo! Instead of a nice gentle trot, the mammoth went straight into a gallop. "Woohoo!" cried Elsie as they charged down the stairs. Chapter 39. An Unwelcome Sight. Poor Dotty was thrown up and down with each step the mammoth took. Pound, 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 oof, oof, oof. As they rode down the staircase on Woolly's back, Elsie and Dotty were met by an unwelcome sight. The Professor had come too. Now he was sitting up straight in his wheelchair at the bottom of the stairs, with the dart gun in his hand. "You should have hit me harder," he purred. "I wish I had now," replied Elsie. Because of her undignified position, slumped over the back of the animal with her face buried in Woolly's fur, Dotty was struggling to keep up with what was going on. "Oh no, not him again," she remarked. "Prepare to die, both of you," said the Professor. He pointed the gun straight at Dotty's bottom. A deafening sound came from the huge wooden doors behind him. Boom! "What's that?" asked Elsie. "That will be the policemen battering their way in," replied the Professor. Boom! And another. "There's just enough time to kill you and claim this monster as mine." Boom! Another. "I'm going to enjoy this." Boom! Behind the Professor, the doors to the museum burst open. Smash! Shards of wood flew into the air. The battering ram, which was a huge log on wheels, was going at such a speed the policeman couldn't stop it. Whirr! It sped right towards the Professor, whacking the back of his wheelchair. Boof! Ah! The force of the whack sent the man shooting across the floor. Whiz! He crashed straight into a glass case of stuffed apes. Bang! The Professor was thrown up out of his wheelchair. Pow! And smashed through the glass. Shatter! Knocked out cold, he landed right between two of the apes. With his mouth wide open, he could have passed for one of them. All this commotion startled the mammoth, who let out a gigantic hoo. Elsie patted the animal and said, "Whoa there, Woolly!" It was no use. The mammoth began charging towards the line of policemen at the door. The officers all cried out, "Help! No! I don't believe it! He's alive! The ice thingamy! A real-life monster! I ain't done no training for monsters. I want paid overtime for this. My ma said I had to be up for breakfast," as they leapt out of the way of the rampaging beast. Elsie and Dotty held on for their lives as the mammoth galloped out of the museum.
"After them, you fools!" snarled Barker. "That monster is the property of the Queen. We must bring it back alive or dead."
Chapter 40. Chocolate Balls. Woolly was way too fast for the policemen. By the time they had scrambled to their feet, the mammoth was long gone. The creature galloped out of the grounds of the Natural History Museum and charged down the road. Woo! Try as she might, Elsie could not get the animal to slow down. Poor Dotty was thrown around on the back of the mammoth. Oof, oof, oof! London was waking up, and a handful of market stall holders were wheeling their produce along the snow-covered roads. "Mind me plums!" shouted one as his barrow of fruit was trampled underfoot. "Watch me nuts!" yelled another as his roasted chestnuts were sent flying. "You've crushed my chocolate balls!" hollered a familiar voice. "That must be Raj," remarked Dotty. "Who?" asked Elsie. "Raj. He sells sweets at the market here," replied Dotty. She called out to him, "Hello, Raj!" The man smiled and waved. "Oh, hello, Miss Dotty, my favourite customer. I have some half-chewed licorice on special offer today." "I can't stop, Raj!" "And feel free to come back with that huge, furry, long-nosed donkey of yours for a sugar lump." "She's a mammoth." "She's very big for a moth." Still the mammoth galloped through the snow. "Woo!" she cried. "Where's she taking us?" asked Dotty. "I don't know," replied Elsie, "but wherever we're going to get there fast." With some difficulty, Dotty lifted her head to see for herself. "North!" she exclaimed. "We're heading north." "Always north," replied the girl. Up ahead, Elsie saw the sandwich board man she'd met outside the Natural History Museum. On spotting the mammoth charging towards him, he shouted, "The beast is alive! The end is nigh!" "Your end will be nigh if you don't get out of the way," shouted Elsie. By tugging on the mammoth's fur, the girl just managed to make her swerve past him. "The end is not quite nigh," he shouted as they passed. "Woolly's going to trample someone to death if we're not careful," said Elsie. "We need to get her off the streets, hide her somewhere." "I know the perfect place," replied Dotty. "Where?" "The Royal Hospital. It's not far. It's where Tich lives. He'll help us." "How do we get there?" "Can you steer?" "A little bit." "Then steer right." The girl tugged on the fur of the mammoth's right side and the animal veered right. "But Dotty, we can't just turn up there with a mammoth." The lady was stumped by this. "Oh yes, you're right, but I'm pretty sure they only treat old soldiers, not animals." "Prehistoric animals?" "Yes, I imagine they aren't welcome." "Someone might tell on us." "We have to disguise her now, somehow," said the girl. "We could shave her and say she's an elephant." "Hold on. I am holding on, love, for dear life." "I've got an idea." Elsie steered the mammoth down a dingy back street. Just ahead was a laundry where a number of sheets were hanging up to dry. "We just need to borrow these sheets." "Whatever for?" "You'll see." Chapter 41. Good Eye. "It's a what?" roared the guard at the gate of the Royal Hospital. He was a fearsome old soldier, a sergeant major no less, with a chest full of medals on his scarlet coat. He sported a monocle on his left eye and an eye patch on his right. "It's a brand new, top-secret tank," replied Elsie, gesturing at the mammoth hidden under some sheets. "Balderdash!" "It's not balderdash. It's a brand new weapon." "For Private Thomas," added Dotty. "Tich Thomas?" "Yes, that's him. The shortish one." "Shortish is an understatement," chortled the sergeant major.
Tich is so tiny, he gets mistaken for a toy soldier. Ha ha!
Dotty started to look angry. She didn't appreciate hearing the love of her life spoken about in this manner. He may be small, but he is perfectly formed.
Tich is 73 if he's a day, replied the sergeant major, and his feet wouldn't reach their pedals. What on earth does he need this contraption for?
That's top secret, isn't it? Answered Elsie. If we told you, it wouldn't be top secret. The old soldier did not look convinced.
Who are you, anyway?
That's top secret too, replied the girl. Now open this gate, ordered Dotty.
Hoo!
Went the mammoth. From under the sheet she raised her trunk. The sergeant major was becoming increasingly suspicious. Elsie and Dotty looked at each other nervously.
What was that?
Demanded the sergeant major. That? Asked Dotty.
Yes, that.
Well, began Elsie. It was its cannon thing, just lifting up. She pushed down on the trunk and Woolly let out another "Woo!"
It just said something,
snarled the sergeant major. No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Didn't.
Did.
It was me, chimed in Dotty.
I was looking at you the whole time, said the old soldier.
From the good eye?
Yes, from the good eye. Your face didn't move.
Well, began Dotty, that's because...
Spit it out, woman.
That's because the sound came from my body.
Your body, madam?
Chapter 42. Backdoor Barrage. It was a body burp, explained Dotty.
I can't smell anything,
protested the sergeant major, pointing his nose towards the lady and sniffing the air. Count yourself lucky, chimed in Elsie, continuing the lie by wafting the air in front of her screwed-up face. Pooh! It's a real stinker!
How utterly uncouth, huffed the old soldier. I had no idea that ladies could even, for want of a more polite expression, unleash a gas attack.
Sadly, it happens, mused Dotty.
Ooh!
There goes my bottom goes again.
Ooh!
Oops! And again. The sergeant major's face turned a shade of beetroot.
Madam, do you have any control over your, for want of a more polite expression, rear gun?
Ooh! It seems not, replied Dotty. Dotty's got a grotty botty? Elsie could feel the mammoth becoming more and more restless. Please let us through before she lets another one go.
Most irregular,
muttered the old soldier. He raised the gate at once and saluted as the three unlikely visitors passed through into the grounds of the Royal Hospital. Thank you so much, said Elsie.
Ooh!
Naughty bottom! Called out Dotty, slapping her own rear end. Just as they led the mammoth across the lawn, she stopped. With her trunk, she snuffled under the snow and began to munch on the frozen grass. Rumph, rumph, rumph. Having not eaten for 10,000 years, the animal was hungry. As much as the pair tried to keep moving, the mammoth was staying put. From under the sheets, she munched and munched and munched. She must have eaten a ton of grass before she was full. From his sentry post, the sergeant major looked on. He raised a telescope to his good eye and spied on the strange goings-on in the grounds of the Royal Hospital. Just refuelling, called out Elsie. The old soldier shook his head.
Ruddy strange sort of a tank.
Yes, it doubles up as a lawnmower, said Dotty. Just as the pair thought they might have got away with it, the inevitable happened. The animal laid a mammoth poop.
Thud.
The prehistoric poop plopped onto the snow. It was mammoth both in origin and size, large and brown and steaming. "Just testing the brand new weaponry," explained Elsie. "It's a stink bomb," added Dotty. "Don't worry," began Elsie. "It's not explosive." Then she added under her breath, "I think."
"Well, you can't leave it there on the lawn," roared the Sergeant Major.
"What do you want us to do with it?" asked Elsie.
"Put it back in the chute."
The pair looked at the back end of the mammoth. "I'm not sure that's going to work," said Dotty. "I'd say it's more of an exit than an entrance."
"Well, pick it up then," he ordered.
"Me?" asked Dotty. She'd been a cleaning lady for 40 years and had dealt with all kinds of unspeakable mess, but this was beyond. "Yes, you," said Elsie. The lady gave the little girl a stern look.
"Don't dilly-dally, woman, get on with it,"
bellowed the Sergeant Major. Reluctantly, Dotty bent down. Holding her nose as far away from the hot steaming pile as possible, the lady scooped it up in her hands. She stood up and held it away from her as far as her arms would allow.
"At last!"
called out the Sergeant Major. The three unlikely friends moved on. The little girl couldn't help but smile, which made the lady fume. "Would you care to swap?" asked Dotty, already knowing the answer. "I'm fine, thank you," said Elsie, leading the mammoth across the courtyard. She noticed an unusually short old soldier looking out at them from a tall window. He was smiling, waving and blowing kisses in the most extravagant manner. "Tich!" exclaimed Dotty. Chapter 43. A Grave Mistake. "It just looks like a hairy elephant to me," remarked Tich in his musical Welsh accent. Elsie was pleased to finally meet this man she'd heard so much about. He was indeed short, not even taller than her. In fact, Dotty was as wide as he was tall. There was no denying that they made an unusual match. However, all that mattered was that the pair glowed in each other's presence. The animal was drinking water from a toilet stall in the Royal Hospital, her trunk stuck down the U-bend. "Well, she's not a hairy elephant," replied Elsie haughtily. "She's a woolly mammoth." "I've never heard of such a thing," scoffed Tich. "Well, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's a prehistoric creature." "Well, I'm prehistoric myself, and I don't remember seeing those as a boy in the Welsh valleys." "Well, that's because woolly mammoths died out thousands of years ago." "And you just brought her back to life, did you?" said the man with a chuckle. "Yes," replied Elsie, "actually, we did." This stopped the old soldier in his tracks. He looked at Dotty for confirmation. The lady nodded her head. "Well, what the ruddy hell is he doing here?" he demanded. "I was rather hoping you might help us hide her," replied Dotty. "Me?" "Yes." "Here?" "Yes." "A great big furry elephant?" "Well, no," Elsie jumped in to correct him. "She's a woolly mammoth." "How long for?" he asked. "They live for 50 years or more." 50? "Yes, this is just a baby one." "How big do they grow?" "To about the size of a house." "A house?" Just then there was the sound of a flush in the stall next door. Splish! An impossibly old man shuffled out, wearing a nightshirt with a military cap and leaning on a cane. The three looked at one another in panic. They'd had no idea the man had been in there the whole time. "Morning, Colonel," said Tich.
"I'd leave that for a minute if I were you,"
muttered the Colonel, wafting the air and actually making the smell worse, not better. Despite the stink, the three smiled back at him, but said nothing, hoping he might shuffle on. He didn't. The Colonel spotted the rear end of the mammoth sticking out of the stall next to his. He took a moment to admire it before commenting,
"My word, that's quite a remarkable large furry bottom. New boy, is he?"
"It's a pet," replied Tich.
"A pet?"
"Yes."
"Now, I would hate for you to miss your breakfast, Colonel. Let me help you to the dining hall."
The private took the Colonel by the arm, but the old man was having none of it.
"You can't keep a pet in the Royal Hospital, Private. It is against regulations."
"It won't be here for long," replied Tich, shooting a look at Dotty. "No more than 50 years, Colonel, sir," chipped in the lady. Elsie shook her head in disbelief at Dotty's stupidity.
50 years? Spluttered the Colonel. "What kind of animal is this thing, anyway?"
"She's a woolly mammoth," replied Elsie.
"A what?"
asked the man. "It's like a hairy elephant," added Dotty.
"We can't have a hairy elephant in here," shouted the man. "Whatever is this country coming to? Get the blasted beast out."
With that he whacked the mammoth's bottom with his stick. Thwack! This would prove to be a grave mistake. Chapter 44. Right at my what's-it. "No!" shouted Elsie. "Hoo!" cried the animal. She began bucking from side to side. Crunch! The wooden partitions between the toilets splintered into pieces as the mammoth struggled to get out. When she lurched backwards, the Colonel gave her another whack with his cane.
"Take that, you hairy-bottomed beast!"
Thwack! "Stop!" cried Elsie. She lurched at the Colonel and held on to his arm to stop him striking her friend again.
"Get your filthy hands off me, girl!"
The mammoth was trying to turn herself around in the cramped toilet. Her tusks bashed into the toilet bowl. Crash! Smashing it into pieces. Splurt! Water began gushing everywhere, soaking everybody and everything.
"Ugh!"
cried the Colonel. "Oh, dearie me! More mess for me to clean up," remarked Dotty, never one to leave her job far behind.
"I'm going to be in big trouble with Matron," said Tich,
desperately trying to sit on all the toilets at once to stop water spraying across the ceiling. All he achieved was an incredibly wet bottom.
"Ooh!"
he screamed as he was propelled into the air.
"The water's going right up my what's-it!"
Eventually the mammoth managed to turn herself around and ripped the cane out of the man's hands with her trunk. With all her might, she hurled the cane across the room. Whizz! It hit the window. Bang! Shattering it. Crack! "Oh, cripes! Not another breakage," muttered the lady. The water level in the room was rising rapidly. All 4 humans and the mammoth were soon knee-deep in it. With all the noise, it was only a matter of time before someone came thumping on the door.
"Thud, thud, thud!" "What in heaven's name is happening in there?" came a female voice.
"Matron!" hissed Tich, a flash of panic in his eyes. Then he raised his voice.
"It's all right, Matron. Everything is under control. Just a minor problem with the flush."
The Colonel, who had only come in for a quiet morning poo, was having no more of this nonsense.
"Matron, they've got some great hairy elephant in here."
"Seeing things again, Colonel?" she called out.
"See for yourself, woman," he called back.
Matron pushed open the door. A 10,000-year-old woolly mammoth was staring back at her. But before she had time to scream, a rush of water swept her off her feet. Whoosh! And carried her down the corridor at speed. The other 5 all popped their heads around the door to watch her go. At least that floor is getting a good clean, remarked Dotty to herself. Chapter 45. A Lider Lollop. Fortunately, there were many fantastic hiding places in the Royal Hospital. With Matron flushed away, Tich led Elsie, Dotty and Woolly down to the food storage room and slammed the door behind them. "It's nice and chilly in here," said Tich. "I'm sure your furry friend will feel right at home." The mammoth did. Elsie did too, for this was where all the food for the elderly soldiers was kept. The old boys obviously ate well, as there were giant jars of sweets and tins of all sorts of goodies, like jam, honey and treacle. To a girl who had lived her entire life under the shadow of hunger, the smell of the food was like the sweetest perfume. "Oh, I'm starving," said Elsie. "Please may I have a tiny bit of jam?" The little girl's eyes widened and her lip quivered. How could the grown-ups possibly say no? "A little dollop can't hurt, can it?" said Dotty. "No," agreed Tich. "No one would miss a dollop." "Strawberry or raspberry?" asked Dotty. "I've never had either," replied the girl. "What's nicer?" "Raspberry, I think." "Raspberry it is, then." Tich reached up and took down a jar of raspberry jam. Slowly he unscrewed the lid as the little girl licked her lips. However, before Elsie could dip her finger in, a huge furry trunk snaked around and slurped in the pot. "What the?" exclaimed Elsie. "Bad mammoth!" chided Dotty, slapping Woolly's trunk away. Whack! The mammoth didn't even react. She was too busy being in a state of bliss at having tasted jam for the first time. "Maybe I could try some strawberry then," said Elsie. But as Tich unscrewed the lid, the mammoth's trunk snaked its way around and slurped up every last bit. "What?" exclaimed Elsie. "Bad mammoth!" yelled Dotty. "Not too loud," hissed Tich. "Well, she's been very naughty." "I know, but if I know Matron, she'll have all the soldiers up and out of their beds looking for that thing." "She's not a thing," said Elsie. "She's a mammoth." "Mammoth thing, then? I don't know." Rumble. "What was that?" asked Elsie. "Thunder?" guessed Dotty. Rumble. "There it is again," exclaimed the girl. "Is it the pipes?" wondered Tich. Rumble. "It is the pipes," said Elsie. "Woolly's pipes. Listen." All three fell silent. Rumble. "It must be the jam," said Dotty, not agreeing with her tum-tum. "Don't let her have any more." "I won't," replied the girl, "but I am absolutely starving. You hold her trunk while I have a tiny bit of treacle." The treacle was in a huge tin, the size of a bucket. Tich shook his head and lifted it down towards the girl as Dotty blocked the animal's view with her body and held on tightly to its trunk. Excitedly, Elsie prized the lid off. Immediately the sugary aroma whispered its way up to her nostrils. It was so sweet that for a moment the girl felt as if she was floating. She dipped her finger in and it felt as smooth as silk. Just as she was about to scoop out a large dollop of treacle, she was shoved against the shelves, causing all the tins and jars to come crashing to the floor. Bang, crash, wallop! The mammoth had surged forward to slurp up every last bit of the sweet-smelling gloop. Dotty was holding on to the animal's trunk, so was shoved into Tich, who was shoved into Elsie. Now there was a cloud of sugar and flour and tea whirling around the room, causing the three non-mammoths to cough and splutter. In amongst the chaos, the mammoth's trunk searched out every last morsel of food that had been splattered on the walls, floor or ceiling, or indeed was still floating through the air. The more they all tried to stop Woolly from devouring everything in sight, the faster she ate. Rumble, gorge, fizzle. "Oh no, listen to her tummy again," said Dotty.
"I think we're heading for an explosion," predicted Tich.
Slap, 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 slap.